We're cracking the code on the greatest of all time. This is the GOAT Code. He was born in the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan on February 16, 1972. He was so passionate about his first sport, bowling, that he didn't even play football until high school. Now, despite his late start, in his senior year, he was voted top player in the state of Michigan. At Notre Dame, he ran for nearly 2,000 yards in 3 seasons. And in 1991, racked up 20 total touchdowns, which as of 2022 is still the school record. And then on April 25th, 1993, he was drafted with the 10th pick by the Los Angeles Rams. From the 2015 Hall of Fame class, it's the bus, Jerome Bettis. Jerome Bettis. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for joining us on the GOAT Code.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, so let me ask. You're growing up in Detroit, and you are not playing football. Tell me about your journey as a youngster in Detroit and what led you ultimately to football.
Well, for me, my journey started as a bowler. I was at the bowling lanes. My mom taught me, my brother, and my sister how to bowl. That's kind of how I grew up, all the way until I was 14, and I had to make a decision. I needed to get a scholarship. My mother's brother was a high school football coach, and he just so happened to see me playing in the streets and said, hey, this boy needs to play football.
What do you think made you different than most running backs?
I was extremely fast for my size. It was always a but. He's big, but he's fast. I went to the combine and I ran at, I think, a 4.52 at 254 pounds. So then they said, okay, he's got the speed. Jeez. So that's when Chuck Knox asked me, do you think you can play tailback? And I said, absolutely.
After he was drafted by Los Angeles, his local nickname was kind of a no-brainer. The Battering Ram. These days, the average running back is just under 6 feet tall and weighs around 214 pounds. Bettis is 5'11", but he was heavier than most linebackers. And his combination of size and speed was what made him literally a force to be reckoned with. In physics, force equals mass times acceleration. Depending on the size, relative speed of the defender, and the point of impact, we've calculated collisions from the bus that generated roughly 2,000 pounds of force. That's more force than typically delivered from an actual battering ram. As a rookie, Bettis made his mark quickly, and probably left a few marks. He led the league with 7 games of more than 100 yards rushing, 79 rushing first downs, and he was the only rookie named to the All-Pro team. From your point of view, did you see defenders just scared as you were barreling right at them? I would be.
I saw them turn down opportunities. That's what I'll say. Maybe you saw the eyes get kind of big and you saw them decide to attack me in different ways. So they started to go a lot lower. They started to try to hit me more from the side, less head on. Then I had to make adjustments for those type of tackles. So it was a constant cat and mouse trying to figure out how they were going to try to bring me down, because the traditional go run right in there and hit them, it wasn't favorable for them.
While the force of getting hit by the bus could be massive, that's not the only reason he was hard to tackle. The real key was another physics principle: momentum. Momentum is a quantity determined when you multiply an object's mass by its velocity. In order to stop Bettis, a defender, or more commonly, multiple defenders, had to generate more momentum than he had, away from the direction he was running. So, for example, when a 255-pound Bettis got up to 17 miles per hour, the formula gives us a momentum of 6,356 pound-feet per second. In terms of physics, that's roughly the same momentum a 16-pound bowling ball has rolling at 271 miles per hour. Put another way, because we kind of have to, that's equivalent to the momentum of a 15,000-pound bus moving at about 0.3 miles per hour. In today's game, who do you see on the field now that reminds you of a young Jerome Bettis?
Well, it's not many guys. They do have a really, really good running back in Tennessee. King Henry, he's pretty special. I think he's got the size, the intangibles, and he hits it up in there, and he's physical, right? And so when you look at running backs, not a lot of guys want to hit it in between the tackles.
And while his momentum made it tough to stop the bus, he wasn't just pure brawn. His running style incorporated knowledge from his other favorite sport. Was your experience in bowling something that benefited you as a running back?
Well, I think ultimately because I understood angles. And bowling is about angles. It's about coming into the pocket the right way, how to get pins to bounce off of other pins to interact with the other rest of the pins. So it was always about angles. So then when I got into football, I was always conscious about how to create a better angle for myself. And so I would try to get hit and use that energy to bounce off and redirect. So it was never me wanting to hit head on, because then that energy is taking me backwards. So I was always working angles so that I could hit, because I'm expecting you to hit me and I'm expecting then to be able to bounce here and then go that way. And it was always a redirect of that energy so that I can continue to go forward.
By colliding with defenders at an angle, he applied a torque or twisting force to their bodies, reducing what's called their dynamic stability. Most amateur bowlers think that the best odds for a strike are hitting the one pin directly. But in fact, the bus will tell you that the ideal impact is at a 6-degree angle. This is why good bowlers roll a hook to come in at an angle, and why Bettis was so adept at bouncing off defenders. We can't confirm this, but the bus is probably the only Hall of Famer who's bowled a perfect game, 300. For everyone watching this right now, what is your advice for unlocking everyone's greatness inside of themselves?
It's mental. And a lot of people think I've got to have the physical abilities. I've got to be I got to jump the highest. I got to run the fastest. And that's absolutely not the case. You have to believe that you are the best player out there. And you have to know that you have to evolve. And I carried that on the field, and I showed it with the play on the field. And so I think that's what a lot of athletes and just regular people have to understand, that your mind is the strongest part of who you are, and you have to exercise that and you have to use that.
Jerome Bettis, thank you so much for joining us on the GOAT Code.
Appreciate it.
So let's crack the GOAT code for Jerome Bettis. He rushed for 13,662 yards, more than 7.5 miles, which places him, as of 2022, 8th on the all-time rushing list. 91 touchdowns as of 2022 is tied for 11th all-time. He was invited to 6 Pro Bowls and twice was first-team All-Pro. Bettis was selected as the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1993, Comeback Player of the Year in 1996, and retired right after his Steelers won Super Bowl 40, also known, appropriately enough, as Super Bowl XL. Bettis was the quintessential power back, and his greatness was amplified by intangibles like an innate knowledge of angles and resolute self-confidence. His leadership and commitment to the community made the bus a legend in Pittsburgh and solidifies the code that makes Jerome Bettis a true GOAT.
For the GOAT code, I'm John Brinkus.